we'll do the best we can to live with it.
Hopefully you guys can see me. Okay. Hi, my name is Omar Sean. Today I'm going to inform you about how an animated film is made. It goes through millions of steps and lots of processes, and eventually gets to the big screen, and we all just think, hey, that's pretty cool, and they must have done that, about in a couple of hours because we're so advanced with technology. But in reality, it takes years and years and years to make just one movie, and that's why you always see animated films, and they're so short, only an hour and a half long, and the stories go through really quickly because they don't have the amount of time that, say a regular movie like The Dark Knight could shoot in 2 years. If they were to do that in an animated version, that would take 5, 6 years maybe to make that one film. And even then, it would be a lot shorter. So I'm going to play for you just a quick little snippet of what it looks like. So as you can see, animated movies are extremely hilarious. They can be all sorts of wacky and fun, and you can do things in animated films that you can't do in real life, like make a bird appear out of nowhere. And so it makes an added level of humor to something that you couldn't get before. I'm pretty sure you couldn't, incorporate a duck into The Dark Knight and make it hilarious. You could try, but it's not going to work. So we're going to first start with a couple of ideas. I'm going to run down a few things they start with. They start with pitching an idea. They go through things called storyboards, models and sets, and then animation and rendering. So I'm going to make sure you guys get the full gist of all these concepts. They take a lot longer than I'm going to explain them to you. First up, pitching your idea. It's extremely difficult. Most people take years upon years to just think of an idea, and even then it might not even go through. It's pretty much just talking to a board like you guys here. Except it's going to be a lot smaller. 10 extremely well-devoted individuals are going to sit in a room. You're going to pitch an idea to them, like a sales pitch, making sure that they all realize you can make money off of this idea. And then if you're extremely enthusiastic and it goes over well, then they'll take that pitch, and then they'll move on to the next step of getting funding or producers, that sort of thing for it. I'm going to put it this way. On Pixar.com, they labeled a perfect way of how to pitch an idea. A Pixar employee pitches his or her idea to other members of the development team in a way that's reminiscent of a sales pitch. The real challenge is to get the audience to believe in the idea and see the possibilities in it. And by possibilities, we all mean money. Nobody's going to accept your idea just because you think it's cool. They're going to accept it because they want to make money. Like Puss in Boots made a lot of money because of that one idea. And they thought, hey, this is the house that Shrek built, so why not? Let's just keep going with Shrek. So they decided, let's do Puss. So the next thing I'm going to talk to you about are storyboards. And storyboards are this fantastic little thing that sort of animates it. They all are drawn out, and they consist of hundreds of thousands of these little pictures. And they're chronologically ordered. They're drawn, hand-drawn each day, and they go through thousands of these an hour. They put them up on a giant wall usually. Sometimes they'll have entire office spaces devoted to storyboards. They'll have binders filled with it, and it just is ridiculous the amount of time that goes into just drawing these. A lot of them can do it on computers now, but they're still hand-drawn because of the creativity you have with that. And it's a lot easier, because you can just make one, move on to the next. You don't have to keep saving files and having to print them out. That's a waste of paper. So it's a lot easier in the long run. That's on Wikipedia, which is a site that I used. I kind of realized later that he told me not to. But they have a really great definition of storyboard. They say that storyboards are graphic organizers in the form of illustrations or images displayed in sequence for the purpose of pre-visualizing a motion picture, animation, motion graphic, or interactive media sequence. And it goes for everything, like video games, just movies in general that are still live action. They still go through storyboards. But for an animated film, they go through tens of thousands of more of them because they need to be able to visually see what they want to do. So I'm going to play for you just a quick little snippet from NBC.
The exhaustive, nearly 4-year process begins with a script. Then, what they call storyboards are made. How many storyboards exist? An hour, 30 minutes, hundreds of thousands. An entire world needs to be created from scratch, and each character is painstakingly developed. In animation, we create 24 drawings to create 1 second of movement. 24 drawings for a single second of movement. Yes. And we produce about 3 seconds of movement per week. Olivier Stapoulis is the man behind the cat, the lead animator for the character of Puss. You must prove it, Clark. While Antonio Banderas once again provides the voice, it's Olivier and his team that bring Puss to life.
So a great realization from NBC is that they did go to the studios and they talked with a lot of the animators and a lot of the directors, and they got feedback from it. And what was surprising to me personally, since I didn't research this topic beforehand, I just sort of delved into it since I saw the movie Puss in Boots, and I thought, why don't I figure out something, what happens with the movie? What do they do to it? How do they make it so great? And so I started researching it, and it turns out, I didn't know this, but in your eye, you can only see 24 frames per second. Any faster, it gets slowed down, like a slow-mo movie, like The Matrix. And then if it gets any slower, like say 8 frames a second, it becomes a really fast-paced movie. So you're all of a sudden looking at the movie like you're the Flash, and it's just flying by. So apparently they have to make 24 frames each second, just snippets of it. So it goes by so slowly. You can only imagine the painstaking process of having to focus and then move the character, say, a millimeter over, and that's your next frame. You have to do that thousands of times every day, and you can almost imagine the suicide that goes on at DreamWorks and Pixar, because they have to do this every day, every hour. But what's great is that on the pictures, like on the DreamWorks and Pixar, they actually have booths and tables and chairs and like workstations that you can go around and play video games and that sort of thing. So it works out really well. They actually do have fun. They kind of are adamant about not dying, so they give them everything they can possibly hope for so that they can keep working. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about are models. And they're 3D models. They sort of look like this when they're pre-rendered. They're usually just drawn on the computer, and they're done for every character. And it sort of helps that way so that they can get a visual idea of what they're supposed to do and what it's supposed to look like in the first, process of this. Now, with the wireframing that they have going on here, this is used so that they can, animate the characters and sort of manipulate them in a way that would look good on screen. Now, they can manipulate this in 3D space, but it'll never come across the screen because you can see the entire thing all the time. So what they do is they send it over to another animator who animates camera angles, and they're usually the ones in charge of making the shot look good. So they'll put up a couple of cameras in this 3D world and make it so that you can see just a specific section of, say, the face or the arms or possibly just the legs. And that'll come across a lot better on the screen when it's completely done and finished. According to Pixar.com again, since they have a lot of information on this, using the art department's model packet, a set of informational drawings, the characters, sets, and props are either sculpted by hand and then scanned in 3-dimensionally or modeled in 3D directly in the computer. They are given A-bars or hinges, which the animators will use to make the objects or characters move. Now, Woody has 100 A-bars in his face alone, so that's how they make the facial structures move. They're pretty much hinges that they can manipulate with their little keyboards and their mouses, and they can make your mouth move, your arms move, and they can do this in real time. And then once they get whatever frame they wanted, they can save that and then move on to the next one. And it gets extremely complicated when you have, say some characters will have hundreds of these A-bars in just their body and face, 600 even, 800. I know in Puss in Boots they had 800 A-bars in his body and face. That's a lot to think about when you have to do this entire movie and you've got to work on each one so that you can get the shot just right. Next thing are sets, and these are 3D models again. But these are done mostly so that you can see the world that they're